I've been in this business for quite a long time. In 1992, I started up the Danish organization, and today we represent about 40% of all Danish companies who has an HR department. And over the years, we of course had been doing quite a lot of things that we intended to bring to our readers. And we have also a network group, and we have a very large exhibition about human resources in Copenhagen once time each year with about 3,000 persons that's coming up. Now, my first clue to you will be that is to look at the DNA of the professional magazine. And what do I actually mean by that? Well, that is that the DNA of the magazine and the DNA of the readers is very important for you trying to find. Now, if you look at me as a sort of reader of a magazine, I would be in this area a sort of professional, but quite a lot of people would be what we called semi-professional or amateurs, which means that you have to understand it's very important for the readers to be interesting and find the value in the things that you're bringing into the articles. I know that you can be having years about a sort of survey and before you're coming up with the possibility of writing articles as well. But there are, in the end, a sort of time where you actually can get the focus from the readers of your articles, and that's what I would try to explain. You can, in some funny ways, say that there's two ways to writing an article. That's the Lieutenant Columbo way or the Detective Hercule Poirot way. And what do I actually mean by that? Well, it's quite simple. If you see a movie with Columbo, you, as a viewer, you will know from the start who actually has done the bad thing or killed the person. And Columbo spent the next 50 minutes trying to get at the same position where you are. And what is the good thing about using it the Columbo way is that you actually give the facts, the key points of your article to the readers in the start. The other way is what Hercule Poirot normally do is that he tries to find the best way to find who actually did the killing. And as he normally says that you have to use the small gray cells, he actually means that it also inspires you to think about what you're reading and trying to come up with some part-time conclusions about what this story actually would bring to you in the end. So it's all about how much time does actually readers spend on reading articles in the different kind of magazines that you are delivering articles or other kind of interesting things from your surveys. But one of the things that I also have to look at in our magazine is one thing is the readers from the HR departments. The other thing is what they actually have as focus in their organization. Because HR is not just there for HR. HR there because of the strategy of the organization, particularly when we are talking about private organizations. And looking at this from a survey in 2024 from Gartner, they say that what the focus should be in 2025 was that the top CEO actually has a focus. More than 60% of them says growth. That means that when I'm reading an article about human resources or surveys or scientist articles, I also try to put it in the perspective of what people in our organization actually is looking for as well. Now, I know there has been the focus on growth, I would say, since the time of the COVID. But the things that even HR people have to understand, that if you ask the board, they have seems to be that their focus was on growth, technology, and then first workforce. That means HR are not on the top list, which also means that I really have to find something that can underline the strategy concerning workforce. But I also have to accept that I would not be the one that I actually says that this is priority number one. I will be number three. And so we have to understand what we actually is working with. Now, one thing is, of course, the company and what the board or the CEOs looking at. The other thing is that in an organization, our articles is also looking at what does the employees in the companies actually looking for to stay as longer as possible in the job. So there are, you could say, two objects. There's one, what the strategy is asking for, and the other one is that we also have to, in human resources, look for what can we gain to have the employees to staying longer in the job. And if you look at this survey as well, the same survey from Gartner, it says employee expectation, 62% of the candidates says they only apply for job that meet the majority of the EVP, this employee value proposition requirements. So that you have to work with two sides also about your articles, because if you only benefit one of the side, you have to use the Lieutenant Columbo way of writing, because it's very important for the reader to then to understand that this article is more to underline your strategy and is to underline how you can develop your employees. Now, looking at our magazines, we normally every 4 years do a survey. This is a survey from 1922, where we had 3 magazines at that time. And the interesting about these 3 magazines is the one who's in the red circle. It is the green and the blue one. And if you look at the middle one, which is the HR Manager, the magazine was called, more than 60% included the most satisfied, and the satisfied who was in the survey, they said, we are very pleased with your magazine. And for us, it's very important to have this, because we look also about the articles that would be brought to the people. So if they said no, they're not very kind of interested for human resources, then we of course have to change. And we do make changes, and I'll just come back to that. But this survey also was looking at how long time do people actually spend reading our magazine. Now, the person who was the chief of the HR department normally didn't read this HR manager at the office. The person took it with her or him at home and spent about 50 minutes to read this magazine. And that's a very, very tall amount of minutes that they normally spend on this one. Now, if we then ask, does anybody else in your office read the magazine? And they said yes, between 4 and 5 other people also read the magazine. Other people from the HR department or other middle managers as well also read, but they spend only between 20 and 30 minutes to read. So it is important also the way that you write, that you have different kind of readers of these articles. But the good thing is that try to create what you would find the most interesting for the readers of your articles. And why I'm saying this is that readers, in particular concerning human resources, they are just like everybody else. One thing is a very well documented article. Another one is that if you can make me interesting from the start, not only by the articles that will be in front of me, but also by pictures. I know we normally say one picture says more than 1,000 words. And what is very important is that if you look at these two, the HR and Ledelse, which means HR and management, is our new magazine that we have been changing here in 2025. And the new one that we made is the HR International, which is only in English. Now, why do we now suddenly have two kinds of magazine? One is in Danish and is printed. The HR International is digital and in English. Well, it is because that our readers, as well as the Danish HR department, no longer only have focus on Denmark or Scandinavian, but have to be more international. That could be looking at EU, that could even be local at the global things that are turning on in human resources. The particular reason is that in Denmark, we actually need staff. And so if we look at the 300,000 who came into the labor market in Denmark over the last 3 to 4 years, 200,000 of these are coming from abroad, which means they were not born, they were not living in Denmark, but we invited them into Denmark to work here. We are actually doing so well that if you're looking at how Denmark is run for the moment, we can be quite pleased that we looking at the figures, we are one of the best in EU to doing production. Now, figures in one thing, pictures is another thing. And what we normally would like to do is that when we make articles, we try to find pictures that would actually encourage the readers to continue to read the article. And you can say that what everybody does if you read a magazine or a newspaper, that exactly the same. And so it is, yes. But the thing is that we normally ask our writers is that, please, if you have some very good pictures that actually shows your personality, which invite the readers to say, wow, I think that what the person here, just looking at the person, would actually tell me that I have to read or would like to read more about this article. Even I can be looking a little bit more interesting as well. I normally write every year about the HR perspective for the coming year. I normally study about 10, 15 kind of surveys around from the world. And then I put it into one article and we release it in our magazine as well as digital. And what I'm definitely trying to see is what should the HR be looking at that their challenges will be in 2025. It also brings me further until that when we have the international HR, that we are going abroad to ask professors, scientists in human resources. Peter Capelli, maybe some of you know him. He was quite well known. I think it was in 2015. He had an article on the front of Harvard Business Review where he wrote, "Why does everybody love to hate HR?" And that's some of the things that actually was triggering people to say, wow, this article I need to read in the magazine, as well as this one from an old guy from Nick Holy from Henley as well earlier. This article, the good, the bad, and the absolutely game-changing. everybody knows that it's half the title of the film with Clint Eastwood, but he had challenged you to try to look into the future in the way that we would be, that there'll be some good things, bad things, as well as something that would absolutely change the way that HR will be working in 2025-26. The other thing by using pictures is also that here is this woman is the chief of an HR department, but she also sent us a picture who actually is showing children, which means that if you in some way can underline the target in your article, that could be with pictures, that could as well be with other drawings that could actually tell what the message is. And you can, for example, use Pixabay, where it is possible to free download the drawings or pictures. Now, coming to the perspective of the guidelines, I would particularly says, if you go to the area where it says it is important to mention that our additional article contain 100% professional contents that is intended to inspire our readers and members. That is the main purpose. Now, we normally ask for an article with about 6,000 to 7,000 characters included or without spaces. But the most important thing is it's actually the message in your articles. And for particular business cases, which often is written by companies, we also declare to them that it is therefore not possible to advertise or highlight your company, but with you as the center of the professional article, you are showing the target group your knowledge and your skills without the content becoming commercial. So that is the main in our article. And the good thing is that we in Denmark have a connection with about 250 scientists from Danish universities, from others abroad, and we often use them in our magazine as well, in our digital magazine. And concerning scientists, they always know how to write and to know how to put it in a content that actually bring the people to understand the value. So it is very small guidelines, and the main purpose of our guidelines is to respect the readers and to respect that they would like to have some value of doing readers, but also to understand that they are on a semi-professional level. And you maybe sometimes had to write for, let's say, the semi-professional readers instead of for really other scientists. Now, in the end, I would like to show you something that is, for me, very common when we look at these things, is that articles is often described because of your surveys, your way that your scientist things has been brought into your surveys. But look at this picture. This is a new Jaguar, which you can't buy yet. But I expect that if the car would be interesting for me in 2026, that it contains all their knowledge that they have in the Jaguar Land Rover group over the last 100 years, that they put the newest knowledge into this car. And that is also what people that's reading our article would like to know, is how can I use and how will it be when it's possible for me to understand and see this car one-to-one in 2026. Dear listeners, you're more than welcome to contact me on my email, ksn@danishr.dk. Also, if you have articles that you think that could be interesting for human resources as well, don't hesitate to contact me.